So all this talk about shill bidding, let's talk about why do people shill bid in the first time? It seems pretty obvious, but I think it's worth discussing a little bit. And I do have a reason for this. So, in my opinion, I can think of two reasons why people shill bid, Laine. The first one is because it is their card that is listed on a consignment site or by a consignment seller on a consignment site, and they want to get more money for it. So they're going to kind of chip away at the current high bidders' highest proxy bid. But as soon as they overtake it, they risk having to pay fees and buy their own card and relist it and all that. So there are some incentives not to shill bid, but people, I think they're willing to take that risk because it is so prevalent. They're doing so much of it. Another reason people shill bid is price protection. I own a card, or I'm not going to use myself. You own a card, and you see a similar card with the same card listed on eBay or on PWCC or wherever, and you don't want it to sell for less than what you feel your card is worth. So you're going to bid it up, hoping not to buy it, just hoping to run the price up. And I think people shill bid for both of those reasons. Now, are there any other reasons why people shill bid?
Look, it pretty much covers the aspects I think you've touched on there. Like for me, one of the main ones I still think is that people think, here's the price I want for my card. I will shill bid it at least to that level, and if I end up winning it at that level, I'll just relist it and go again until I finally get someone that goes over the level I want. I think that's what a lot of people are using it for, which kind of baffles me a little bit because you can just set a minimum bid price on items, which a lot of people do. If you look at a lot of the some of the data that you'll see on our website, is it'll say single bid auction or best offer as being the reason for that sale. And then you actually look at it, and quite often it is actually not just a best offer, it's a one bid win. And the winner quite often has good feedback because they set their initial bid at $1,000 because that's the minimum price they wanted. That was essentially their reserve. And that's where I think some people might not quite, get the idea that they could literally set it at $4,000 if that's the minimum they wanted for that card, and see if the market's happy with that. And if they're not, put it up as a fixed price with best offer. And if then you can take offers, and doesn't stop people still manipulating it by putting in an offer and then never paying when they get accepted, which happens to us in our domestic business here a lot, and to anybody who does large amounts of sales on eBay, that happens. But there's some other options I think that people could think about using rather than shill bidding. That's my thought on that anyway.
And so that's, and you kind of alluded to what I was going to get at there, was that shill bidding is effectively putting a reserve onto these cards. And so what that means is that the seller, and let's consider it's the seller or the owner of the card who's shill bidding it. What it means is the owner is not willing to take any less than what they're shilling it up to. So that becomes a reserve price. It's just not a formal reserve. That's not going to say that there is a reserve on this auction. But that's really what it is. And it also, I believe, sets the value of that card to that person. Obviously, whenever it's our card, I think it's just human nature to love your cards more than other people's until they're yours. Value your I'm going to value my cards more than yours because they're my cards. I've got more invested in them. I got emotion, time, effort, all that. But really, if you're someone who is shill bidding a card you own on a public marketplace, you are really telling the market that this is the amount that I think the card is worth. I'm not willing to let it go cheaper. Yes, the right way to do it is to set a buy it now or best offer, or have the minimum bid being, your value that you want out of it, or a little bit less, maybe. But in essence, that's what shill bidding is doing, is it's telling the market what somebody out there, the owner usually, or the owner of a similar or same card, feels that card is worth. Now, again, we're only having this discussion to get into the psychology of things. Obviously, not at all endorsing shill bidding. I mean, would never do that, of course. It's not a good thing. But these are some of the ramifications and reasons why I think people do it. So, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, it's a real, talking about it is important because it's a real issue that a lot of people are concerned about. And like you can see in some of the comments that are coming up in the YouTube here and on the other, through the feed, that people really do dislike it, and it causes some consternation for people across the hobby that they really dislike this, dishonest behavior. And I don't disagree with them whatsoever. And whether it's, the person who's selling the card pushing the price up, or someone else who has the same card who wants to be able to sell theirs for a higher price pushing it up, either way, it's still dishonest behavior. And I personally really think that some of the work being done by some of the other platforms is fantastic to try and actually discern real versus not real sales. We offer all data as it is currently to actually allow people to make the decision for themselves, where they can, that's why I'm a big sort of fan of people looking at multiple sales where possible, if there's not, looking at similar cards and seeing what the sales are, and just trying to understand and educate themselves to the extent where they don't just necessarily trust the output of a single piece of information provided to them and take it as gospel. They can actually go away and look at it more critically and say, oh, well, hang on, it says that it's worth that much, but is that really what this marketplace is telling me, and what these sales are telling me, and these other cards are selling for this? How does it all piece together as a puzzle? So we would like to, one of the functions that I do want to actually add into the website, which we are hopefully going to be able to do, at least for eBay sales, because they're the ones we can look at some of the data in a bit more detail, is allowing people to sort of verify an auction or a sale by us using a bit of an algorithm in the background that goes and looks at some of the data on eBay's end, and not showing it. It's not data we're allowed to give to everyone and say, here's all the information, but we can see if it was a high or low feedback buyer. What was the bidding history looking like leading up to the sale of an auction? We can see what, you can see that on the eBay website too. If on our website, if you click the bids number on an auction for eBay, it takes you to the eBay page and shows you the bid history for that item. So that allows you to do a bit of work yourself and go, well, hang on, the feedback of this buyer was 1, and there was a 1 and a 0 feedback buyer bidding against each other for the last $2,000. I think this might not be a real sale. And then sometimes you can even click on the link for the eBay listing and go to eBay, and it shows that it's been removed. And that's another component we want to try and incorporate, and we've been talking about this with eBay as well, is can we find a way to, if that item isn't sold, we can actually remove it from the data feed and actually take it away. Because at the moment, it's very difficult to do that. The information still quite often shows up, depending on how it was cancelled or if it was sold or not. The sale still shows in the data feed, even though the item didn't sell. And I get emails daily from people saying, can you please remove this item? It wasn't paid for. Here's the screenshots from my account. And I would say I would love to. But the problem is we get our data directly from eBay, and eBay is still showing it as a sold item. And we don't have the ability to intercept like the thousands and the hundreds of thousands of queries that go on every day to actually just pull out those discrete items if they appear in a search. So we're trying to move forward into a place where we can potentially start removing sales from the system that are incorrect, where the data that's been provided by users. And I think someone in the comments asked about a consensus board for difficult comps and things like that, where if there is enough information provided to us from a user, we can basically say this is an unpaid item.